3, Cross-Linguistic Influences. Cross-linguistic influences are the influences of one's L1 on any new language they learn. There can be both positive and negative impacts on an L2 learner. Most often, it's misleading similarities that cause people to make mistakes while learning their L2. This is called crucial similarity measure. The transfer to somewhere principle states that both the L1 and L2 must have a feature that invites the confusion of a similarity. Differences between the languages also cause negative influences. External language forces are not always the cause of confusion, though. The psychological perception a learner has of the L1 and L2 similarities and differences also play a part. Learners need to make an interlingual identification for transfer to occur. This means that they either consciously or subconsciously use their L1 knowledge to fill in for a gap in their L2 knowledge. The learners are influenced by the nature of the L2 phenomenon and the universal forces that shape its natural development, the learner's knowledge of what's transferable and what's not from their L1 to L2, and their relative proficiency level. Some mistakes are made not only by L2 learners, but also by children who are learning their L1. Some examples include saying run instead of ran, and the car was crashed, as opposed to the car crashed. This shows that adults and children each invent when trying to grasp the concepts of a language. This is called inter-rim systemic solutions. L1 transfer impacts the rate of a learner's progress along their natural developmental paths. One example includes the use of either pre- or post-verbal negation. English allows only post-verbal negation, but learners whose L1 does not allow this will stay in the stage of pre-verbal negation a lot longer than those whose does. Question formation and placement of the intonation has also been studied. Learners will follow the rules of their L1 for forming questions before going through stages that ultimately lead to the correct intonation placement. Whether or not the use of article adjectives exists in an L1 affects their rate of learning them in an L2. It'll be more difficult for those who don't have any articles in their L1 to learn the correct usage in their L2.
There are a few factors to consider when a language gets transferred or not. 1. Universal constraints like markedness and developmental sequence. 2. Psychological views. 3. Inherent complexity of the L2 subsystem in the question. And 4. Proficiency level. Markedness is a rating system used for the frequency of which a rule or a pattern occurs in languages across the world. More common characteristics are considered unmarked while being difficult. Uncommon ones are marked. The marked or unmarkedness of a rule in the language one is learning will most likely determine how difficult or easy it will be for them to grasp the concept. Transferability refers to finding similarities from an L1 to an L2, conscious or subconsciously. Positive transfer is when the speaker or writer uses language transferring from their L1 to their L2 to form proper language structure. A positive transfer example is using cognates. A list of cognates in Spanish are similar to the ones in English. For example, el radio, the radio, la televisión, the television, el teléfono, the telephone, agresivo, aggressive. La cámara, the camera, el sistema, the system, serio, serious are great examples of cognates. Negative transfer refers to language transfer, results in the misuse of the L2 structure. When a learner consciously or unconsciously learns to operate in two ways. The first way is what works in the L1 may work in the L2 because human languages are basically alike. But if it sounds too L1-like, it probably won't work in L2. A fun fact to learn is when someone knows two or more languages, it can speed the learning process of the language that they are learning. And all previously known languages can influence knowledge of and performance in an L3. The creators are Nicole Cullen, Andrea Noble, and David Hinosa.